Pokémon Snakewood, a game that has been analyzed into oblivion, loved by some, hated by many. Now, after about 14 years, I think it's about time I give my take on this thing. So, Pokémon Snakewood released in the early 2010s, I think 2010 to be exact, in October somewhere, and it was made by this guy called Cutlerine. Since 2013 or something, he has completely vanished, and I have no idea what this guy is doing right now. But in 2010, he released Pokémon Snakewood, and this would become one of the most well-known for all the wrong reasons type of Pokemon hacks out there today. And I think this game has been reviewed many times. It's been played through on YouTube and Twitch and all that many times. And it's been hated on a lot. And I'm making this video because I think most of those people forget about the context. I think one of my favorite YouTube creators, Mr. High Heels over here, said it best. People always tend to look at the X and just hate, without looking at the Y, which is some shit the game does well and the circumstances under which a game was made. And that's what this video is about. So this video was inspired by me getting Pick Espri's playthrough in my recommended, and I watched the entire thing. In the playthrough, he just hates on the game every single episode pretty much. And that just inspired me to give my own take on things. And now, I'm not a Snakewood apologist. I actually think it's a bad game. It is a bad game. It does so much wrong and not a whole lot right. But I think there's more to it than meets the eye. So, first things first, I'll be honest. The game is bad in every sense of the word, really. Like, the writing isn't all too great, but the zombie apocalypse is pretty interesting, I guess. But after about Dewford Town, they completely let go of the whole zombie plot, and then the story just becomes a random chain reaction of events with the Inquisition, the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, the 7 deadly sages, the Deadly 7, and all that weird shit, man. Even, I don't know the show personally, but even the Telefang guys make an appearance with these weird little Pokemon that aren't supposed to be Pokemon at all, but they are from that universe and all that. And then at the end it ends with this guy, Xenax, it's Latin for old man, and he basically has a whole master plan, and then the game just ends in the most pretentious way possible. It's just really fucking bad. Nobody knows what this game is even about after about the first couple of hours of playtime. Like, it becomes so deranged and confusing to the point where you can't even keep track of what was happening, aside from like the bare minimum, like moving from point A to point B. But why and what is even happening? There's just a lot of plot elements and characters that get introduced that have a role for about 1, maybe 2 hours, and then they just disappear forever. And not to mention the actual writing isn't good either. Shit's clearly made by someone that's either a bit of an asshole or rather young, like late teens. It's not the level of bad a 14-year-old would be, because that would a 15-year-old would not be able to make dialogue like this, create sentences like this. The I think the writing is too advanced for someone that young, but it's clearly an edgy teen. And because of that, it creates some of the most annoying characters and dialogue imaginable. For example, the Deadly Seven, they are the most annoying characters of all time. And they were purposely written to be annoying as a joke, and then at the end of the game, they all reveal it. Oh, it was all an act to infiltrate the Inquisition and use them to save the world, blah blah blah. But the joke goes on for way too long, and their sections are way too annoying. Their jokes are super edgy and unfunny, and at some point, Cutlerine just didn't know what to write for them, so he just made them say the most random shit. The game could have really done without these guys, man. And them getting serious by the end just doesn't redeem their persona at all. They are just horrible. And it takes way too long, it drags on way too long. And the game just has all of these edgy jokes, sometimes even touching a little bit of racism, touching a little bit of sensitive topics. It breaks the third wall a couple times, which is unnecessary and not too funny or witty. And aside from a couple of characters, I think Meteor, Glyce, they are somewhat interesting, but most of the characters are written in such a way that clearly oozes edgy teen, and thus they are uninteresting, assholes, unfunny, or all of that. And the main character is the same, really, because they kind of suck, man. They are just angry at everybody, making like snarky remarks. I don't know. It's not. I think having the character speak is a big mistake on its own, but the way he talks is not it. It really isn't it. It's just the writing, man. Like, the story makes no sense, the characters are bad, the jokes are very unfunny and rarely ever hit its mark, and overall it's just a very throwaway story you don't care about, and it ending with pretending like it has some bigger message hidden inside of it. It's not it. It really doesn't have a hidden message or bigger meaning. Come on, man. And to complement the plot, the gameplay and things you're supposed to do are equally as annoying, I guess. Just to name a couple of examples, you have the Isle of Calm with the doors resetting to the same spot, and you have to walk into all of these caves. And every time you beat one of the Deadly Seven members, because you have to beat all of them to advance and get a key or some shit, you continuously have to walk the same path because it consistently resets you to the same area. It's so fucking stupid. It's a really bad puzzle. And of course, I cannot leave out the fucking boardroom guy hideout, where you have to battle the 7 sages twice in a row. Like, you beat all of them, then you walk down 3 steps, and then they're like, oh, here we are again. And in this room, there's this puzzle before even battling them, where you have to find the right path, and every time you step on the wrong tile, it resets the room. Why? It makes no sense. And then once you clear the boardroom, I think a little bit further, there's this tile that spawns a level 80 Shadowroo, which is a fake mon, which I'll get to in a bit. Like, it's not great. It has a lot of really annoying puzzles and finicky gameplay elements that the game thinks it's being clever, when in reality it's just being really annoying and ruining the pace of the gameplay of the Pokémon core gameplay. And that is really annoying. The story being subpar was already annoying enough, but then you have these puzzles that aren't fun for anybody. It just doesn't work. And like, I appreciate it for being an original story, an original type areas, original puzzles, blah blah blah. But it doesn't really work, man. And then in terms of the core gameplay too, which is essentially just what Pokemon is about, not the story, not the weird puzzles he added. I assume Cutlerine is a he, by the way. I don't know. He also made changes to the items. He, for some reason, renamed the items. For example, rare candies are now Rage Candy Bars, Full Heals are Snake Oil, the experience share is now a Brain Link, and that just makes no sense. In the there's a side quest in the abandoned ship where you have to find keys, and like the key spawns don't work. You have these blinking icons that are supposed to show you where the keys are, but they are not in those spots. But he renamed the keys for no reason, and then you look at them, they have no description, so you don't know what door they are for. Why? He renamed all of those items just to be different, but they do nothing different. At least if you make new items, make them do something else. And they don't, they are just renamed items that already had its effect. Stupid. And the same for Pokemon moves. Blaze Kick was renamed, Dragon Dance was renamed, what else? A bunch of moves are renamed and they do nothing new. It was really unnecessary. You could have just kept the items and the names the same. But I guess because he wanted to be like, oh, I've changed the entire gameplay, he also changed all of the items around and the Pokemon moves. Some of them, I think it's maybe 5% of the moves are renamed. Why? At least if you want to go that route, maybe change like more of them. I don't know, man. And of course, when you're changing everything around pretty much, it is no surprise he also changed a bunch of Pokemon designs. To complement the zombie type vibe, he redesigned a couple of Pokemon like Bulbasaur and the Charmander, I don't even know what its name is. Meryl, Graville, I believe it's called. He made all of these Pokemon redesigns, those zombie redesigns, and they do not really hit, in my opinion. The reason for this is they are not necessarily zombie Pokemon per se. They are often just recolors with strange names. They rarely ever get a new typing. If ever, I don't believe they ever get a new typing. And those are most of the fake mon, I guess, in this game. Because there are a bunch of fake mon, but those are most of them. And if you make zombie redesigns, at least give them like a new design. I think making a lot of them ghost or dark type would have made a lot of sense. Maybe even create a new type, that would have been pretty cool. But in general, the fake mon heavily outnumber the good ones. And especially those are the biggest offenders. Like Humbone is, no, it's just like, I think it's it's Kingler, but he's a rock. It's not a great design, and I know there are a lot of basic designs in OG Pokemon, but it's not great. And the worst one is a King Mario. Well, it's not even King Mario. He's made, I keep calling Cutlerina he, I don't even know, but they've made a bunch of Marios, and for some reason King Mario, you first encounter him in the Dufour gym, and he has Wonder Guard and a typing where nothing is super effective against him. Not only is its design just a ball with eyes, and then the other forms are recolors, but you cannot hit him with anything other than Toxic, Leech Seed, and Will-O-Wisp. So those are not good designs, on top of the Pokemon zombie redesigns. And I don't know, especially the pun names kind of annoy me. I don't know what he was doing with that, man. And then even the existing Pokemon like Luxray, Seviper, Milotic have random type changes. I believe Luxray and Seviper now are dark type, same as Persian. Milotic is a psychic type. I guess it's okay, but another really unnecessary change like the renaming of items and moves was very unnecessary. Like, he mentioned it in a forum post, so you can easily find what has changed, and it's not a big inconvenience, just like, why? But the worst thing about these Pokemon, and I don't mean the existing Pokemon changing type, I mean mostly the fake mons and zombie redesigns, is that you can barely catch any of them. I don't think, except for Graveel, there's any zombie redesign you can catch. The fake mon are mostly just behind the wall that is trainer battles. They are not, you cannot find them in the wild. You can find a couple of fake mons in the wild, a couple legendaries that are freshly designed. There is this Snorlax evolution hidden behind a side quest. You can find this 1% encounter of this bald grey dude, I forgot his name. You can find him in as a 1% encounter in Mount Pyre. But that's pretty much it. You make all these zombie redesigns and add some new fake mon. And aside from fucking Humbone, which you encounter like every area, you can barely catch any of them. And I think that's such a missed opportunity. And that really fucking sucks, because at least then the battling would have been pretty cool, because you can use an entire new team of cool new zombie and original Pokemon designs, which is fucking great. And that would have made the game a lot better, because the gameplay itself, the battling, the core gameplay, it's ass. It's super ass. And it all starts at the beginning. The starters are Coughing, Baltoy, and Paras, and none of those three have anything going for them. Not only is their typing really bad, because there wasn't a physical special split in this generation yet, so they learn moves that aren't their strongest stats, which is very ass, but they also have no new evolutions or whatever, and they are just not very great Pokemon in general. And combine that with the gameplay that is the insane level curve that makes you grind every few hours. Well, not even every few hours, pretty much every area. Because no matter how many trainers you battle and if you clear out the entire area, you will always get out-leveled by the enemy. And this especially gets really bad late game, where the Pokemon League just... it fucking ups their level in a couple of battles by like 15. You start the Pokemon League at like level... The enemies have level 55 Pokemon, and then the champion is already nearing level 70. It's just... it ruins the pace so much, man. And they don't even have super OP moves or whatever, but the level curve is just... you can never keep up. So you always have to grind in between areas, and if the stupid puzzles didn't ruin the pace enough already, that most definitely does, because grinding is fine in certain games, but if you have to consistently grind your Pokemon in a Pokemon game, it really feels like it ruins the pace. And in games like, I don't know, Trails in the Sky, which I recently played, so that's fresh in my memory, I always felt the game was challenging, but I never felt like it was something that was either too slow or too quick in its pacing. The only time I really had to grind was near the end, because of those 3 consecutive boss battles that absolutely whooped my ass, and I was just a little bit too low of a level, I guess, and my equipment just wasn't good enough. But it was the final area, and I think that being so damn challenging and me having to grind there, I was not annoyed for a single second. And grinding in this game every single time because you're facing a boss that suddenly has insane levels compared to what you've been fighting up until that point. It's bad, man. And on top of the really bad level curve, he did everything to make the Pokemon as annoying as possible, giving them mad annoying movesets that just... They serve the sole purpose of disrupting you, and then they have way too many full restores, man. Especially when you're fighting King Mario, which cannot be killed pretty much. You have this guy like Cnex you fight him in the Pokemon League at the end. He has a bunch of full restores, and King Mario, it's just... You're just prolonging the battle. It's not making it any harder. They have way too many full restores, and because of their level being that high, you often can't kill them. They go to the red, then they use a full restore. Like, the gameplay gets much longer because of just annoying game design and annoying movesets, which makes it honestly even worse. So yeah, that's pretty much a summary of everything wrong with Pokémon Snakewood. The story is not great. It doesn't know what it wants to be. There's no general storyline. It basically just does whatever, and it feels like Cutlerine just made the story do whatever popped up in his mind at that very moment he was developing the next section of the game. The characters are way too edgy, unserious, and written like an overconfident teen. The renaming is stupid. The Pokemon redesigns are not great. The fake mons are mostly. And the puzzles make no sense. The insane level curve is stupid. And the starters are very ass. Not to mention not being able to play with any of the new Pokemon pretty much. So, the game is bad. But, there's a big but here. Even if it's bad, there is a lot of effort put into this, clearly. He even said it himself, he worked on this for about 3 years. And now I know, time spent on a game isn't an excuse to say, hey, the game is actually good, because it's not. But I think there is a lot of effort put into this, and I think it truly shows Cutlerine's early potential. The dialogue, while very teenager-like, you can clearly tell he knows how to write dialogue. And even if the jokes don't always hit and the characters mostly seem like assholes, I think you can clearly see he knows how to construct a sentence. And some of the individual story sections are actually really cool. Like, you have this Fossil Maniac maze, the part with the Inquisition in Valibor Town, and the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse being in Meteor Falls. Then it is revealed that you're first fighting versus the Inquisition, then you're fighting with the Inquisition, then you're fighting against them again, continuous betrayal type of stories. The whole flashback shit where the main character was tricked into all of these fake flashbacks and all that, and then you have to find your brother, and I don't know. I think between a lot of the bad writing, the stupid story events that are mostly nonsensical, I think if you divide them into individual story sections, there definitely is a good story somewhere. When the writing actually tries, it is surprisingly effective and pretty decent, honestly. Like the section with Veracity and his sister, the section with Zombie Norman, the Monastery part with the spirits and old dudes and stuff. I think there's actually some pretty cool sections in this game, but they are just too few and far between the really bad and annoying and infuriating sections. And the same really goes for the areas themselves. I think some of the areas with the reset rooms, the ice puzzles, and all that, they really have potential, and if they were included in a better game, people would be praising those type of areas. And even the areas that do not work, like the Isle of Calm, like the Inquisition hideout, even if the design is bad per se, it really isn't half-assed, and it shows what Cutlerine is able to do with his strange and creative mind. Even replacing shit like Route with the whole ass desert above Mauville, and fucking things like replacing trainer sprites with demons, and caves with icy areas with cool particles and all that. I think it truly shows how creative this guy can really be. I think especially the trainer redesigns, I haven't even touched upon that. I think some of them are so fucking cool, man. I think the demons look really good. There's like a fish lady in Victory Road that looks really good. There's a bunch of zombie designs that I really like. And at some point, he really runs out of cool names, and he makes a bunch of obscure references to shows and all that. But it doesn't... I don't really care about the names. They are very unfunny at times. But if you have to design so many characters, so many redesigns, so many new names, yeah, whatever, man. I don't care if the names are kind of bad. He does try to be funny with it. There's a section where there's a bunch of, I think, Chinese type of characters, and it feels like he just put a bunch of names in a random Chinese name generator and went with that. Whatever, man. The point is, I really like those designs, and there's really a couple of good designs and good areas in this shit. And I think backdrops like the Frigid Way and the Film University, they look fantastic. And also something, a puzzle like the Watson murder mystery plot in New Mauville. I think that's one of those instances where I actually like an idea. I like a puzzle idea. It's strange and not really Pokemon-like, I guess, but it doesn't really have to be. But it's not annoying like some of these other puzzles. Like the Lilykov's sewers look really good for starters. I think the sewage looks really good. There's all these characters that are like, oh, I can get out and I'm losing my mind, man. And then there's like this guy that needs an item. You pick up the phone, he wants an item from the abandoned ship near Dewford. So you go to Dewford, you find all these keys, which I briefly touched upon in this video already, and that have no name. Open up the door, find the odd keystone, and then you go back to the guy, and whoa, it's a spirit tomb, and you can catch it. I think that's really, really cool. Also the random joke quest in a school where you can then catch a level 15 machine. I think that's fantastic, and there's a lot of those cool type of side quests. And even though the main story quests are often annoying, the puzzles and areas could have been designed way better to not make you angry every single time. I think a lot of these side quests, I think the vast majority of these side quests are actually pretty cool, if I'm being honest. And I really fucking like that, man. And even though I think like 70 to 80% of the fake Pokemon are bad, I think there's actually a couple of really, really cool designs. Some of the zombie Pokemon like Maismar, the Magmar guy has a really cool palette, and the Gorlax with the guy sticking out of it, the Muck that's devouring a child. I think those are fucking great, man. Like, when the Fakemon are good, they are really, really good. And those are just the zombie recolors, the zombie redesigns. There's a bunch of original ones I really like as well. The machine I just talked about, the machine you catch in this school, in this building, whatever. I think that's a really cool design. It even has a move data stream, which is original, it looks like the move Lock On, but it actually does damage. It's supposed to be a priority move and it doesn't work. That's very nice. Good job. There's the 1% encounter, the vampire guy that evolves into Kachuko or some shit. That's really broken Pokemon, but that's not the point. Really unbalanced, but it looks really cool. There's this bird that evolves into an orange that looks fucking great. There's the Pokemon that Xenex uses, and I really love those designs. I even love the joke design of, I put all these Pokemon together and it's a bad redesign in Lilikov, where it's just a bunch of arms and Lotet and I don't know. I think that's cool. And even the Telefang Pokemon, which aren't Pokemon, look fantastic in my opinion. I really wish those were obtainable and not just a Telefang cameo, I guess. And there's also the evolutions of existing Pokemon, which are honestly even better than some of the actual evolutions we got. Like the Zigzagoon evolution, like we got Obstagoon. I like Obstagoon, but I think it's called Dragoon in this game. I think it's a cool design, man. The Dragon normal type shit. The Zangoose evolution looks great. The alternative Slakoth evolution or Vigoroth evolution. It's a 25% chance to get Vigorlan, I believe it's called. I fucking love that shit, man. I think that's really good. Even bomb-ass Pokemon like Quillfish got an evolution and aren't as useless as they used to be. Like, if this game is good, it's really good. But it's such a small percentage of it. And I think that's the biggest problem with Snakewood. It has, I think Cotlerine's development, his talent shows, but there's just so much he did wrong in this. And that is the main problem I have with Pokémon Snakewood. You can clearly see Cotlerine has talent. You can clearly see he can be a great game designer if he develops himself, pretty much, which is a funny wordplay, I guess. But this game just ended up being really, really bad because of his age. And I think that's what a lot of people are forgetting. Cotlerine was about 17 or 18 when he released this game. He even said it himself in a Reddit post a couple years later, in 2013. In this Reddit thread, he wanted to answer some questions of the people who played the game and were interested in hearing his thoughts on it. And he said that he was 14 or 15 when he was playing Pokemon Quartz, and he was a typical arrogant teen, and he was like, yeah, I can do something like that. And he made a game that was oozing with teenager spirit. And sure, you can say, when you're 18, you have a functioning brain, blah blah blah. No, you don't, motherfucker, you don't. I have a bunch of old videos, which nobody watches luckily, where I'm let's playing a couple of video games. When my channel started in 2016, I was just about 19. And I said and did a bunch of dumb shit, a bunch of edgy shit I thought was funny. I even edited a bunch out already because I said stuff I don't agree with anymore. When you're below 20, even in your early 20s, I'm 26 now, almost 27, and I'm still a fucking idiot. I think I'm gonna look back at those videos I make today and be like, man, what was I thinking? Because you develop as a person. When I look back at my old videos, I think they're fucking horrible. My old Let's Play videos and edited videos, I thought they were the shit back then. I thought I was so fucking good. It wasn't good. And it still isn't good. And maybe in a couple years I'll think the same about my current day videos. I think, sure, it's not fully excusing the game as a whole. But when you're that age, you're an idiot. And I think we should allow Cotlerine to be an idiot. And most of these game reviews, most of these people hating on the game, forget that this guy was a teenager when he made this, an edgy teenager. And that's why it was so hard to watch Picaspree play this. I watched him play the entire game, every episode, 18 episodes, and he was always yelling at the game how fucking bad it was, blah blah blah. And I think he was over-exaggerating a lot, first of all, but he was also forgetting the circumstances in which this game was made. And Cutlerine, it was only 3 years later, so he was 21 at that point, probably 21, 22, and he was like, obviously I couldn't make a cool game like that, a cool Pokemon romhack like that, and thus he ended up with Snakewood. And he even said, I think my brain took a wrong turning at the corner of inspiration and madness. It was never going to be a serious game, I know that much. I wanted to make something silly, even outright stupid. Why exactly I felt that the genre was best served by filling Hoenn with zombies is not entirely clear. And even the King Mario design, he was like, what the fuck was I doing? Apparently he made a game before it that never saw the daylight, and it was called Pokémon Solar, and he made the King Marios there because he was inspired by a series or some shit, and he wanted the King Mario because he really liked that thing. He wanted it to make a comeback, and he even admitted in this forum post that it was a big mistake. Saying why would I do such a thing? I can't offer a better answer. Then it seemed like a good idea at the time. I think that's really fucking funny, man. Like, even Cutlerine, a couple years down the line, just like me with my own videos I made a couple years ago, I think my 2019 challenge runs, even 2020 videos, which is 4 years ago, they are horrible. I'm not funny, my editing is bad, my English pronunciation is bad, the composition of the video is bad, everything is bad, and Cutlerine here has that same realization. He was a teenager filled with false confidence and a bit of teenage arrogance, which, be fucking honest here, we all had at that age, and even if you're that age right now watching this video, don't lie to yourself. Like, at the time, Cutlerine was even man enough to welcome any constructive criticism, as long as it wasn't straight up hating on him. He never claimed to be the best scripter or the best spriter or the best mapper. Nothing like that. He was very welcome to how can I improve my game, my developing skills. He was very confident about his game, which I was about my videos at the time as well. He was very confident about his product, but he was very much open to improving, and that alone shows a lot. He already says the scripting is really bad at the beginning, and it does get a bit better as you progress, which is true. It never gets good, but it does get better. And he even has like a maybe it gets better, like he knows it maybe would not be received very well. He's very aware of what he's done already. I think Cutlerine was treated very harshly for this, and he continued to make games for a little bit. Then there was like Pokemon Keratin, and he stopped mid-development and just vanished. I think this game really shows how decent of a game developer he could have been. It's in its current state and it will never be updated, but it's just an unguided shitpost. And with the right people guiding him, with the right team of people around him, and even with the knowledge he has now, I think he's probably about my age? No. Maybe. No, I think he's probably a little bit older than me. He's probably above 30, honestly. I think with his current life experience and all that, he could make something really fucking cool. And I think Snakewood being his first game is crazy because of how complete it feels. There are so many side quests to complete. They are mostly very fun, and even some of the puzzles in the main plot, the Pokémon redesigns, some of the areas, the way everything looks, the way the people talk to each other, like constructing the sentences and all that. There are glimpses of talent. And in my opinion, Cutlerine at the time was a rough diamond that just needed to be polished. Not to mention the early 2010s not having a whole lot in terms of romhacks. People are forgetting, in the early 2010s, we barely had anything. It was the early days of Pokemon romhacks, in my opinion at least, what I knew of it. And when I played this game, I think it was about 2011, so I was 14 I think. That game was the shit. I vividly remember playing this during class and even when I got home, and my 14-year-old brain was of course very different than my almost 27-year-old brain right now, and I just had a great time with it. I mean, I had a great time back then with Liquid Crystal and Dark Rising as well, which are also very bad romhacks. Back then, you had a lot of bad romhacks and not very many good ones. It was the early days and people seem to forget that for some reason. At the time, this was one of the most complete feeling romhacks out there. And I think that alone is more than enough to not give it shit. As much shit as it has been receiving. There's just so much content in Snakewood, good or bad. A lot of side quests, both small and big, that reward you pretty well. The legendaries are incredibly fun to get. Some of the evolutions are very, very cool. And I think the dialogue, if remastered, could make this into a fantastic game. It was one of the romhacks at the time that was finished and not abandoned, was very rich in content, and for my small peanut brain at the time, it was cool. It's a product of its time, and at the time it was cool. And I think for someone releasing their first romhack as an edgy, overconfident teenager, this game was hated on way, way too much, because it got easy clicks, easy impression farming, all that. And I think a lot of nuance and context, as per usual on YouTube and any review ever, is often forgotten. And I think that's very sad. Pokémon Snakewood isn't a good game. Not at all. But it does not deserve the hate it always has gotten.